Hey guys, it's Tony here. I just wanted to make a quick video in regards to the Manaslu Circuit hike that I recently completed in April of 2023 and just wanted to give some tips and hints on how best to approach this circuit itself. The hike itself overall goes for around 12 days, so this includes 9 days of actually hiking, 1 acclimatization day and 2 days of transit itself. Well, one of the main reasons was the fact that it was less built up and less popular compared to the other hikes in Nepal. Hikes such as the Accommodation Circuit, Everest Base Camp, they are so popular that it becomes incredibly crowded compared to our hike that we did, where we were essentially staying in accommodations that were all to ourselves, and during the hike you felt like you were hiking by yourself for most of it. So it was incredibly refreshing and nice just to feel so remote in nature and really be immersed in the natural environment. The other reason why I chose this hike is because, also compared to the other hikes, there isn't a road running through it yet. Because of that, you are walking along quite beautiful natural hiking paths, which lend itself to really, once again, immersing yourself in that kind of environment and really appreciating the beauty of it. Another reason why I chose this hike is due to its variable landscapes. Because we weren't hiking back and forth on the same path, we were doing a circuit. You are experiencing a bunch of different variety of landscapes, from the valleys that you start off in until it opens up to the bamboo forest and rainforests and moss-covered forests, to the alpine snowy regions, to the little towns and bits of culture that you'll come across throughout the whole entire hike as well. So me and my 2 friends decided to go during spring, during the period of late April to early May. And that period in itself is usually considered to be an incredibly good time to go because the skies are clear, you still have plenty of snow-covered mountains, which is really beautiful, and obviously you have flowers blooming as well. However, this year it was incredibly unlucky, but we were dealing with an early monsoon season, so it was a bit more rainier than we expected. When saying that, we also still had plenty of days of sunshine and saw incredible views, and that didn't stop us from seeing those views. But it's also important to note that because there was more rain, there was also more snow, and we actually saw many people having to turn back because they couldn't make it over the pass because of the heavy snowfall. However, we were lucky and there were enough sunny days that we were able to pass over. Also important to consider that if we had to walk back like the other people that we saw, then it would add an extra 3 days to our hike. So that's something to think about when you think about contingencies with your travel plans. Another good time to go, and the most popular time with a lot of tourists in Nepal in general, is autumn, where it's considered that the skies are most clear and you'll get the clearest view of the mountains, obviously with less snow as well. I decided to go with Nepal Eco Adventure after a bit of research, due to finding out the fact that the owner itself used to be a guide and a porter himself, and that lends itself to a more ethical, I guess, approach to hiring porters as well as paying the guides and the porters as well. The prices that I found through my research were roughly around 2,000 AUD with each company. It is a bit more of an expensive hike compared to, say, the Annapurna Circuit, due to the fact that it's more remote and it is more, I guess, of a difficult trek compared to the Annapurna Circuit. With the $2,000 that you do pay, you obviously will get a guide. You will get a porter between 2 people, and you do get some gear that you can hire as well. So we were able to get sleeping bags, down jackets, hiking poles, as well as duffel bags if you don't want to bring your own hiking bag with you. The price also includes a private jeep to and from Kathmandu to the hiking spot. It also includes the accommodation, which was actually quite nice, which I'll go through in a bit, as well as the breakfast, lunch and dinner of each day as well, including tea. The company was also responsible for organising all the permits and paying for that as well, as it's important to have a permit when you're going into the Manaslu Conservation Area. So what do we do in terms of tipping? Well, the owner of Nepal Eco Adventure actually recommended that you tip around 10 to 20% of the total cost that you paid for the hike itself, and then you split that 60% to the guide, 40% to the porter. Obviously, during and after the hike as well, you will feel a lot more generous due to having experienced that with them and going through this whole journey with them. So you'll definitely be more inclined to pay a bit more. In terms of the amount of cash that you need to bring along the hike, Once again, the owner of the Nepal Eco Adventure recommended around 2,000 rupees per day that you may need to spend on snacks, shopping, Wi-Fi, hot showers, etc. However, we found that we'd never really spent that much each day, but it's just, I guess, a contingency in case if you do need that money, need that cash. So the food remained pretty consistent throughout the whole entire hike. You found yourself having the same similar menus wherever you went, and obviously vegetarian was the way to go if you wanted to kind of minimize any risk of food poisoning as well. So for breakfast, it was more often than not eggs with some sort of chapati or Tibetan bread, which was more than filling and very delicious. Lunch and dinner interchangeably would vary between dal bhat, which is most bang for your buck, as you get a lot for the amount that you've paid for it. That could be topped up continuously if you ask for more. So it was very filling, very nutritious, very delicious. The other common meals were stir-fried rice, momos, stir-fried noodles, as well as surprisingly a lot of Italian options as well. So pastas, lasagnas, pizzas, all those things, which obviously varied in its quality wherever you went, but it was surprisingly nice to have that option there available as well. In terms of snacks were actually quite limited along the whole entire hike. I'd advise you to bring your own, say, Pringles cans of chips with you, or lollies, or different varieties of chocolates. In terms of water, I really recommend bringing either water purification tablets or bringing a Catadine breathe-free water bottle, which is what I had, which is essentially a water bottle that has a filter on top, which I was able to filter water straight away. And that was really handy because I actually didn't buy a single bottle of water throughout the whole trek, minimizing my plastic waste that I was producing as well. There's many options to obviously fill up your water via streams or via the taps that were available at each accommodation or each spot that you stopped to eat or have tea. Okay, in terms of accommodation, obviously the guide company itself was organizing all the accommodation that you stayed at throughout the whole entire trek. Considering how remote these tea houses were, they were surprisingly incredibly high quality, where often you were having a whole twin bedroom. You're not lying on top of each other, you're not sharing a big room full of bunk beds. It was actually quite private and quite nice. Most places had hot showers, especially as you made your way further and further up. And even some places had normal toilets, but more often than not, they were sharing squat toilets that you had to use. In terms of Wi-Fi often varied between 400 and 500 rupees depending on which tea house you were staying at, but it was incredibly unreliable and didn't work most of the time, so that's something to note as well. I would consider this hike quite a difficult hike, especially if you're not particularly fit, as it is quite gruesome with its ups and downs and high altitudes that you're going to be dealing with. I truly believe that anyone can do this hike, especially if you take your time, which we did. We started at 7 AM in the morning and just kind of paced ourselves, didn't push ourselves too much. However, if you want to enjoy yourself more, then I would recommend having a decent level of fitness before doing this hike, as like I said, it would make it a lot more enjoyable and you wouldn't be struggling as much. So in terms of the actual path itself, you are starting at 870 meters in Machakola, and you're kind of making your way through many steep ups and downs through the valleys for the first 3 days, which are quite long days as well, 8 hours each day, 18 kilometers you're going to be traveling, so it is quite a bit of a drag the first few days. You are dealing with lots of landslide prone areas, which can seem a bit daunting and dangerous at first, but with your guide and with some vigilance, you'll eventually kind of learn what to look out for and how to approach those situations carefully. But once you open up and you see all the views and you start to make your way through the more alpine regions, it starts to become a bit easier and your days also become a bit shorter as well. Obviously, once you start making your way to a much higher altitude, the altitude does start hitting you a bit more and you just got to take it a lot slower. Especially with the summit and making it over the summit of the Lark Pass, we were dealing with knee-deep snow going on the decline, and that was quite difficult as well and very, very steep really. So you had to be really careful, take your time and try not to injure yourself. And in relation to altitude sickness, me and my 2 friends didn't get any altitude sickness at all, which is really good because since you're hiking through to a high altitude across 9 days, it gives you enough time to really acclimatize to the different altitudes that you're going through, as well as doing little day hikes up to a high altitude and then coming back down and sleeping at a lower altitude. Our guide also recommended not taking the Diamox altitude sickness pills until we reached a certain altitude or until you started feeling any sort of symptom as well, because it wasn't proven to be any more effective if you started taking it 2 weeks before you started hiking. Okay, overall that's pretty much a guide and my tips and tricks towards the Manaslu Circuit. I really hope that you will try to embark on this hike yourself, as it is so incredibly rewarding, and the way that you're able to really immerse yourself in the remoteness of it, the fact that it's not built up and it's not busy, just really makes you appreciate it so much more. It's important to note that though this hike will be very built up in the next couple of years, as they're already building roads throughout the whole entire path. You want to get in there and hike it before the road runs too far through and destroys all the natural paths there currently. But on that note, I hope you watch my video up there, my hike, and I hope you have a lovely day. See you later.